Number 1. Brian Schaefer. Brian Schaefer had attended Ohio State University in 1998 to complete his undergraduate, where he graduated in 2003 with a degree in microbiology. He then went on to Ohio State University's College of Medicine, and at the time of his disappearance, he had been a second-year medical student there. In March of 2006, 3 weeks before he went missing, Brian's mother died of cancer, and friends said how her death had been hard on him. Brian and his girlfriend had plans to go on holiday to Miami on the 1st of April 2006, and his girlfriend and their friends and family were speculating that Brian was planning to propose to his girlfriend on their holiday to Miami. On the 31st of March, Brian had gone bar hopping with his friend William Florence, and with William's friend Meredith Reed, celebrating the start of spring break. They had started drinking at a bar named the Ugly Tuna Saloon. Security cameras captured Brian at 1:50 a.m. talking to 2 women outside the bar, and cameras then captured him re-enter the bar, but security cameras never captured him leaving the bar after that. After Brian had re-entered the bar, his friend William had seen Brian come inside the bar, but had lost track of Brian around 15 minutes before the bar was closing. As the bar began to close, William and Meredith told police they had begun to search the whole bar, the toilets, and had shouted his name out but couldn't find Brian. William said he also called Brian's phone, but got no answer, so they assumed that Brian had left the bar without them, and so they left the bar and went home. Brian's family reported him missing once he missed his flight to Miami, and once he was reported missing, an investigation was started and a search began straight away. Police began to look into Meredith and William, and Meredith took a polygraph test which she passed. At first, William had cooperated with police, but he soon got a lawyer and refused to speak to the police anymore. His reason for this was that he had already told them all he knew, he had no more information to give, and to him, the case was done. Brian's car was found at his apartment, and inside his home. His belongings had not been touched, and since his disappearance his bank accounts have showed no activity since then. There were no other entrances or exits to the bar that had no cameras pointing at them, and the only footage of Brian showed him enter the bar, but no footage picked him up leaving the bar. The FBI and police have done many searches but never managed to find any useful clues or information. Police interviewed the bar staff and the 2 women he had been speaking to outside the bar that night, but none of them were able to provide any information, and police found no blood or any other evidence inside the bar. Police then combed through security footage from nearby bars or businesses to see if it picked up how Brian managed to leave the bar, but still, no trace of Brian could be found on the cameras from other nearby bars and businesses from that night, and none showed him on what would have been his route home. Investigators have said that he could have changed clothes or been wearing a hat to disguise himself from cameras. The search continued on to the nearby streets and dumpsters and even local bodies of water, and looking into local people and searching sewer systems, but nothing was found. One theory said that he could have been a victim of the smiley face killer, but some skeptics say this would be unlikely, as that would make Brian the only victim to have never been found, and this theory was rejected by the Columbus police. 6 months after his disappearance, his girlfriend tried to call his phone. This time, it went through and rang 3 times, then cut off. His cell phone provider were able to say that her call had gone through to his phone, and his phone pinged off a tower that was 40 miles away. This makes people wonder how or why his phone turned on 6 months after he went missing. In September 2008, Brian's dad, Randy Schaefer, died after being hit by a tree branch. His obituary was posted online, and a message was left on his obituary, which read, "Dad, I love you. Love, Brian. U.S. Virgin Islands," signifying that the message was left by someone from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Upon investigation, it was found that this message was posted from a computer accessible to the public somewhere in Franklin County, and was determined this was a hoax. Since he disappeared, there have been 0 confirmed sightings of Brian. Number 2. Natalie Holloway. A Mountain Brook High senior who was born on the 21st of October 1986 in Memphis, Tennessee. Natalie Holloway and her family moved to Alabama in 2000 and settled in Mountain Brook. At school, she had got straight A's, and she had been planning to pursue a pre-med degree at the University of Alabama on a scholarship. She went to Aruba when she was 18 with 125 of her school classmates, and with 7 chaperones, to celebrate their high school graduation. In Aruba, she was sunbathing and snorkeling, and at night, they would attend parties. On the 29th of May, 2005, it was their final night in Aruba, and Natalie had gone to the Excelsior Casino, where she met a man named Joran van der Sloot, a 17-year-old Dutchman. Joran was seen on CCTV entering the casino and talking to Natalie and her friends at a blackjack table. Natalie had then made plans to meet up with Joran later at Carlos and Charlie's club. At the club, they were both drinking and dancing with their friends. That club closed at 1:30 a.m., and Natalie left in a silver or gray Honda with Joran and Joran's 2 friends, brothers Deepak and Satish Kalpo. This was the last time Natalie was ever seen. On the 30th of May, the high school seniors were supposed to meet in their hotel lobby so they could begin their departure from Aruba. This was when Natalie didn't show up, so her friends went to her room but only found her luggage and passport in there. One of the chaperones got in contact with Natalie's mother, Beth Holloway Twitty, to update her on the current situation. Natalie's family traveled to Aruba straight away and arrived there that night. They went to Joran van der Sloot's house with 2 police officers. He first denied knowing who Natalie was, then he later admitted that he and his 2 friends took Natalie to the California lighthouse so she could see sharks, and then dropped her to her hotel around 2 a.m. He claimed that after she got out of his car, she had fallen over, and when he offered to help her, she refused. Joran then claimed that as he drove away, he noticed a person wearing a black shirt approach Natalie, and that he appeared like a security guard. Not even a week later, on the 5th of June, 2 former security guards were arrested but then released without charge 8 days later. Joran and his 2 friends, Deepak and Satish, were arrested on the 9th of June, on suspicion of kidnap and murder. Deepak and Satish told police that they had dropped Natalie and Joran at the beach, and then Joran claimed he had actually left Natalie at the beach so he could walk home. Deepak and Satish were released about a month later, and Joran stayed in jail for a further 2 months. The case was officially closed by Aruban prosecutors at the end of 2007 and then reopened the case on the 1st of February, 2008, but a judge refused to have Joran arrested. On the 3rd of February 2008, a Dutch reporter set up a hidden camera which captured Joran as he confessed to getting rid of Natalie's body off a boat and that she had collapsed on the beach. After Joran was confronted about his claims, he then said it was all lies, and that same year, he took part in a paid interview with Fox News where he said that he had sold Natalie into sex trafficking, but he later retracted what he said. In November 2008, Joran was found to be taking part in a sex trafficking ring in Bangkok, and his part was apparently posing as a production consultant for a modeling agency, and was selling Thai women into slavery in the Netherlands. At that time, Thailand started to pursue criminal charges against him. On the 10th of February 2010, Joran's father was playing tennis when he died of a heart attack. His death caused Joran to send an email to Natalie's family saying he would tell them where her body was if they gave him $25,000 up front and $225,000 after. His offer was accepted by their family lawyer, and the family lawyer informs the FBI. The lawyer then went to Aruba a month and a half later with $10,000 in cash and went to meet Joran, and Joran then took the money and led the lawyer to a house and claimed that his father, who had recently died from a heart attack, had buried Natalie here. After taking the lawyer to this house, Natalie's mother transferred another $15,000 to Joran's bank account. Joran then secretly walks off from the house and casually goes to a poker tournament in Peru. It was later found that the house Joran led them to hadn't even been there when Natalie had disappeared, meaning it would be impossible for Natalie to be buried in its foundation, and Joran then admitted he was lying. On the 5th anniversary of Natalie's disappearance, Joran murdered a 21-year-old woman called Stephanie Flores Ramirez in his hotel room in Lima, Peru. He managed to escape to Chile and was finally arrested on the 3rd of June, and had dyed his hair red and had been found in a taxi near Vina del Mar. He was then taken into custody and deported to Peru the next day. He was then charged with extortion and wire fraud, and an arrest warrant was issued against him, and he was later indicted. Natalee was declared legally dead on the 12th of January 2012. At the beginning of 2012, Joran pled guilty to murdering Stephanie, and he claimed he had killed her because she went onto his laptop without his permission, and she had found things linking him to Natalee's disappearance. And Joran also claimed he killed her because the accusations from Natalee's family were making his life hard, so he believed this had made him murder Stephanie. He was then sentenced to 28 years in prison for Stephanie's murder. Whilst in prison, he got married and had a baby, and in 2016, Natalee's dad hired a private investigator who tracked down an informant named Gabriel. It was found that Gabriel's former roommate, John Ludwig, had been Joran's best friend in 2005, and apparently John Ludwig knew what happened to Natalee's body. From the informant's information, the private investigator was able to find human bones, but DNA testing showed they didn't belong to Natalee. John Ludwig went on TV and did an interview where he confessed to helping Joran dispose of Natalee's body. And in 2018, a woman in Florida stabbed John Ludwig to death in self-defense after John Ludwig had tried to kidnap her from her driveway. Peru officials issued an executive order in May 2023, allowing the temporary extradition of Joran to the United States, where he will face charges for extortion and wire fraud. He will be arraigned by a federal court in Birmingham, Alabama. Then, once his legal case there is competed with, he will have to return to Peru to finish his 28-year sentence. Number 3. Theo Hayez. Theo Hayez was born in Belgium in 2001. Theo got to Australia in the end of 2018 using a working holiday visa, and he disappeared on the 31st of May, 2019. A week before he was meant to travel back home to Belgium. On the evening of 31st of May, Theo took a shuttle bus and Theo and his friends went to buy wine from the Great Northern Hotel. This was seen on CCTV at 7:45 p.m. They all returned back to their hostel after buying their wine, where they drank the wine with others on the porch of their hostel. Theo and a few others then took the shuttle bus to a bar called Cheeky Monkeys. This bar has had a shady reputation and was ranked one of the most violent bars in Australia in the 2000s, but it has been said that the bar's reputation changed once they changed owners. In the bar, Theo brought 2 drinks and was soon after escorted out of the bar by security guards around 11 p.m. Witnesses saw that Theo was stumbling around, obviously drunk. The walk back to his hostel should have taken 20 minutes, but his phone data showed that he walked in the complete opposite direction of his hostel. CCTV then showed him walking into low-lit sidewalks of Kingsley Street. His phone data showed that he then went on to take a strange route, walking from Kingsley Street to Tenyon Street, then walked into a large open field, and he then started walking really fast or running to the Milne track and then headed to Tallow Beach. The path he took to get to Tallow Beach was pitch black and bushland. Investigators say due to the pitch blackness and brush it would have been impossible to navigate, especially considering how fast Theo had been going through the brushland path. Due to this, there have been theories that he wasn't alone, and people don't understand how he made it through the pitch black darkness bushes so fast. Phone data then shows that he quickly rushed out of the bushland, and he headed over to the Cozy Corner beach. As he was doing this, he was texting friends. The final text sent from his phone was at 12:55 a.m. to his stepsister saying the word merci, which is French for thank you, followed by a kiss emoji. Data then shows that he was looking at Google Maps a number of times on how to get back to his hostel. Then at 1 a.m. his phone went offline. His phone pinged to the Cape Byron cell tower, close to the Cozy Corner beach the next day at 1:42 a.m. After this one ping, his phone never pinged again. As he had no contact with his family and never returned to his hostel, His family made contact with New South Wales Police on 6 June 2019. His passport and belongings were still in his hostel room. His parents then traveled to Australia to take part in the police searches. In July, a grey puma hat that was like the one that was last seen wearing was found by community search volunteers in the bushland at Tallow Beach. Police theorize that he fell off cliffs but do say they find his disappearance suspicious. 3 weeks after he went missing, a resident of Byron was walking in the Clark Beach dunes when he found a large stick that had the words "The Judge" on it, and was duct taped on one side of the stick and appeared to have possible blood stains on it. Soon after, a woman came forward to police and claimed that 2 days after Theo had gone missing, she had been driving on Pacific Highway when she saw 2 men on the road, 240 kilometers south of Byron Bay around 4:30 a.m., and one of the men appeared to be in his 30s and was flagging her to stop. The second man was lying in the road appearing to be unconscious or dead. Because she felt the situation wasn't safe, she didn't stop her car and later called the police. The police went on to check that area but found no one. This woman later saw a news report about Theo and noticed that in the CCTV footage, he was wearing light-colored trousers and black shoes, which was the same as what the guy lying in the road that night had been wearing. To date, no trace of Theo Hayez has been found.
And yet Theo takes the bush track without hesitation. It's easy to see why Theo's family, like Gary Jubilin, believes it's inconceivable he walked this path alone.
Brings it home very clearly when you come down here at night that someone walking along here on their own late at night, I don't get it.
So we have the benefit of these.
We've got these torches and it's still difficult.
Yeah, and from the phone data, he was walking so much faster than we are.
Yeah. So he's walking with purpose and walking, with confidence. He doesn't know this area. Can you imagine walking through bush like this late at night?
No. You look at the maps and he doesn't have to do this. You know, this is the opposite direction to the one he should have been going in.
Yeah.
It's a daunting walk at 11:30 at night, the time Theo was here.
Number 4. Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone Jr. Richard Petrone was of Italian descent and born on the 29th of August, 1969, making him 35 at the time of his disappearance. He had brown hair, blue eyes and was 5'9" and was last seen wearing a Great Polo brand sweatshirt with blue jeans and has a tattoo of the word Angela on his left arm and a clown tattoo on his right arm and was working at his dad's bake shop. He also had one daughter from his previous relationship. His daughter was 14 when he went missing. Danielle Imbo had been a long-time friend of Richard's family. Danielle had been born on the 7th of August, 1970 in Pennsylvania. She had brown hair and hazel eyes and was 5'5". At the time of her disappearance, she had an 18-month-old son from her marriage to a man named Joe. She worked in the mortgages sector. She had a tattoo of a flower on her lower back and was last seen wearing a dark-colored jacket, cream-colored sweater, and blue jeans. She also had a 2-handle black purse with her that night. Richard and Danielle had been friends for a really long time and had begun dating, but Danielle decided to stop their relationship because she wanted to focus on getting the divorce from her husband Joe, and also focus on her 18-month-old son, but Richard and Danielle still remained close friends. The reason Danielle and her husband, Joe, were getting divorced was because one time, in 2004, when Danielle and their son was sick, Joe had decided to leave them both to go to a Super Bowl game, and as soon as he returned home he announced that he wanted a divorce as he had now met someone else. Eventually, Joe's new relationship with the woman he had left Danielle for broke up with him, so Joe asked Danielle for another chance. On the 19th of February, 2005, Richard was eating dinner by himself in a bar when he decided that he wanted to go and see live music. He was going to meet his friend and his friend's girlfriend but wanted someone else to join him too. He called his sister to see if she would want to come. His sister was with Danielle. her mom and some other girls chilling. His sister told him she didn't want to go, but Danielle said she would go. Richard picked up Danielle in his black truck and they both drove to a bar in South Philadelphia called Abilene's, where they watched live music, having a great time together, and were seen kissing each other by other people. Richard and Danielle left the bar at 11:45 p.m. and made plans to both go back to Danielle's apartment back in New Jersey. Around 3 p.m. the next day, Joe went to Danielle's apartment to drop her son off to Danielle, but when he knocked, he got no answer. Danielle wasn't home, so he contacted her family, and her family knew this was out of character for Danielle, so they grew concerned. Police began investigating, and looked into Joe, Danielle's husband. They found that he had been at an event in another area that night, and it was corroborated that Joe had been there by police who were at that event. Intensive searches were done of rivers and bodies of water. Nothing was found. Police dug up fields in their searches, but no evidence was ever found. Since their disappearances, there has been zero activity on their bank accounts, credit cards, and phone records. After reviewing tollways and bridge cameras, it is believed that Richard and Danielle never even crossed over into New Jersey from Philadelphia. The main route that they should have taken would have been through the streets of downtown Philadelphia, then across Ben Franklin Bridge, but they were never captured on CCTV anywhere along this route. Places that crush and dispose of cars were checked by investigators, but nothing was found. To this day, Richard's truck has never been found. The FBI ended up getting involved with the case and offered a $15,000 reward for any information that would lead to an arrest or solving the case. The FBI released a statement that they believe this was a murder-for-hire plot because of the fact nothing has ever been found, and they believe it was a professional killing because the disappearances are too clean, no mistakes were made, and no evidence was left behind. Joe took a polygraph test and the results were inconclusive, and Joe had threatened Richard over the phone in the past. Joe was once quoted as saying, "If you haven't ruled me out, then you're not good at your job, you're just not good at your job. I am not a mastermind, I have a conscience. I wouldn't be able to live with myself this long after such a heinous thing or look my son in the eye." Both Richard and Danielle's, who were all previously good friends, began to blame each other for their disappearances and would refuse to work together, as Richard's family felt that it was Danielle's fault for bringing her ex-husband issues into Richard's life, and Danielle's family felt that this was Richard's fault, and they felt he must have had some mob involvement or past issues that Danielle got dragged into, which led to both of their deaths. It's unknown if both families are currently on talking terms now. In March 2022, a private search and recovery dive team named Adventures with Purpose announced that they would be actively working on the case, and as of 2021, Adventures with Purpose had found 11 of the 36 missing people they had been tasked with finding. Both of their cell phones have never been turned on since the night that they disappeared, and one theory states that Richard and Danielle accidentally drove into a river, although the FBI say this is unlikely based on the route they would have had to drive to get to Danielle's apartment that night. Number 5. Lawrence Spierer. Lawrence Spierer was born on the 17th of January 1991 and had grown up in Scarsdale, New York. She graduated from Edgemont High School in 2009 and went on to study textiles merchandising at Indiana University. She was active in the Jewish community at her university and had traveled to Israel the previous spring break, where she planted trees on behalf of the Jewish National Trust. She was described as bubbly and outgoing. At the time of her disappearance, she had been dating Jesse Wolfe. On the night of the 3rd of June, 2011, she had been out drinking with several friends, and witnesses reported she was extremely intoxicated. That night she had been drinking with David Rowan and Corey Rossman in Corey's apartment, and after, they all went to the nearby Kilra's Sports Bar, where they stayed for about an hour and a half. When she left her cell phone and shoes at the bar. Lauren and Corey left the bar around 2:30 a.m. and walked back to her apartment. Her neighbors witnessed her stumbling around and didn't like the way Corey was dealing with Lauren, so they asked Lauren if she was okay. Corey then made a remark, so the neighbor punched Corey in the face. After this, Lauren and Corey quickly left, and around 3 a.m. they entered an alleyway which was in the direction of Corey's apartment, which was only a few roads away. She was barefoot and falling over. They both made it back to Corey's apartment, where they were seen by Corey's roommate. Corey then was sick on his carpet, went to bed, and he passed out. The roommate tried to convince Lauren to stay there and sleep off the alcohol, but she wanted to go home, so he took her to their neighbor, Jay Rosenbaum. Jay Rosenbaum tried to convince Lauren to sleep there until she is sober, but she refused. Lauren then made 2 calls from Jay's phone. One was to her friend David Rowan and the second is unknown. Neither answered their phone. Jay said that Lauren left his house around 4:30 a.m. to walk home by herself. He said he last saw Lauren at the intersection of 11th Street and College Avenue, heading south on College Avenue. She was last seen wearing black leggings with a white t-shirt and no shoes. A few hours later, her boyfriend Jesse texted Lauren, but got a reply from the bar where she had left her phone at. Jesse and Lauren's roommate check her apartment, but find no sign of her, so they report Lauren missing to the police, and her parents arrived the next day and a search was started with nationwide coverage and hundreds of volunteers helped in the search for Lauren. A $100,000 reward was offered for information leading to Lauren's safe return, and 2 months later, police conducted a 9-day search of nearby landfill but found nothing. CCTV showed a man in a white pickup truck circling the block near to where Lauren had last been seen. The driver was identified as a man named James McLeish, a convicted felon who had just been paroled from prison after assaulting his ex-wife. He was living in a halfway house 10 minutes from where Lauren was last seen. His friend told investigators that James McLeish had killed Lauren, but police dismissed these claims and James was offered a polygraph test by a private investigator which he agreed to take, and in 2020 James passed the polygraph test. Jesse Wolfe, Corey Rossman and Jay Rosenbaum hired attorneys, and Jesse helped in the search for the first 2 days before his parents came and took him away from the searches. Jesse also said that on the night Lauren had disappeared, he had been at home watching the NBA Finals. Corey refused to talk to Lauren's parents or investigators, and he claims that he doesn't remember anything that happened after being punched that night. A lead later came from a man called Corey Hamersley. He had once been a star student and an athlete, and had planned on becoming a doctor but instead had got involved in drugs. 1 year after Lauren went missing, Corey Hamersley had a meltdown whilst high on drugs and began shooting at police with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun and shooting towards a couple in their home. He was naked, only wearing flip-flops, and police had to shoot him twice. For this incident, Corey Hamersley was sentenced to 28 years in prison. Whilst in prison, another inmate claims that while he and Corey Hamersley were playing cards, Lauren's photo appeared on the TV, and when Corey looked up at the TV, he said, "Man, I knew the guys that did that." Apparently they had been drinking and Lauren had overdosed on ecstasy. They were scared, so disposed of her body in the Ohio River. Police didn't believe this story and took no further action.